Welcome to another edition of John McEntyre Money Show live. This is John McEntyre. Today is Monday, August the 11th. It is August the 11th. We're almost halfway through the month, and today it is 2025. I had to make sure and put that right because you know me, I'm known. I will say 2024 in a quick minute. So, uh, but I hope everyone had a great weekend, nice, safe, fun weekend. I know I did. Had to get ready for the day. Today was the big day because today was my daughter's Bella's first day of senior year in high school. And I was talking to Andrea. I said, I'm positive that it was just last year we were doing kindergarten orientation. It was just last year. And she was like, no, that was years ago. And I'm like, man, she's getting old. But it's all good. It's all to the good. And as she drove off in the car, um, and I could tell she was looking back because she's been sort of like, I'm a senior. I'm a senior in high school. And even she was like, I can still remember kindergarten, I just go there, color, learn my, talk, do some math, do a little lettering, do a little bit of reading, snack, nap, playtime, snack, nap, do some other stuff. Then you guys come and get me. I was like, oh yes. And she was like, things are moving so fast. I said, and you want to know the real truth? She was like, what? I said, it's gonna get faster because I'm with you. I remember the kindergarten orientation. I remember all of that type of stuff like it was yesterday. So we're in the same boat. Um, but hopefully some of the other schools in the area, her school, she's at early college high school, so she goes to school on a college campus, on the community college campus. And so they're basically on the college schedule, so they started school a couple of days earlier than the rest of the county. But there are a lot of kids out there. Schools have started back, they've started cranking up, so let's practice that caution. Let's be mindful of the school buses, the kids, because this is so nerve-wracking to see on the news, drivers passing buses with the stop sign, with their stop sign out and everything, and kids. And I'm like, so everything, you're so important that you are willing to endanger kids and possibly injure or kill a child, because you have somewhere to go, and you maybe just trying to get to McDonald's or somewhere like that, and everything. And well, I've heard the excuses. I was on my way to work and I wasn't paying attention. Well, maybe you should have left earlier. There's no excuse for passing school buses or endangering school buses and the kids. There's just no excuse. I mean, I don't want to hear it. So let me get off the soapbox because that's one of my big irritants. I get very irritated when I see that. But we have a good show, because speaking of drivers, that's what today's show is about. It's about auto insurance, why you need it and how much. And before I get into that, I want to thank my partner, not just in business but in life, Andrea. Andrea McEntyre. She, as a financial pro, she makes this show possible. She's one of the supporters, not with just her expertise, but financially. And so, if it may be time to look at your finances and look at your overall picture. She's helped hundreds, if not thousands, of professional women and business owners and housewives and everything look at their finances and get everything on target there. And so, if you're ready for that, give her a call. Just give us a call. Information is on the screen there, and you'll be able to contact her and get on her calendar. Also, if you have a wallet win to share, those small financial steps that equals to um, wealth and financial success. If you have them to share them. I want to celebrate with you live here on the live stream. If you have a question, put the capital Q in the chat, uppercase Q, whichever one you prefer. I see it. I will do my best to answer, give you the best answer possible. So share those wallet wins and those questions. Don't forget to get on Andrea's calendar for your financial success strategy. All right. So, like I said today, we're talking about auto insurance, how much you need, why you need it. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is for a couple of reasons. Number one, I heard a conversation. Number two, um, I was reminded years ago, when I first started on the show, I had an attorney, I never forget, Mr. Randy Emery. He was talking about business liability. And he was saying probably one of the biggest gaps that he sees when it comes to businesses exposing themselves liability is people being out on the road in their vehicles. They're conducting business, and then they have an accident and they're improperly insured. Maybe they don't have enough insurance, or they don't have the right insurance, and that causes trouble, big time trouble. And I thought back to that, and also I heard a conversation, and then on television it was also a story talking about that. It was an accident, and it involved a business, and I was like, the business driver of the business vehicle, they were at fault. And my first thought, because going back to Mr. Emery, the attorney, was, I hope they were properly insured. Because the trouble is definitely coming. In America, here's a stat for you. In America, 1 in 7 drivers are uninsured. So anywhere in America you're driving and you count 7 cars, one of them is probably uninsured. That is crazy, because we all know we see 7 cars before we get out of our neighborhood. I'm here in North Carolina. It's a little easier. 1 in 10 drivers are uninsured in North Carolina, but the national average, 1 in 7, and that is scary to know that many people are out there on the road uninsured. And so, if accident happen, uninsured, you have to sue them and hope that they have some money somewhere else, some assets or something that you can get. We'll get deeper into that. But that's just a startling stat to see that many people are out on the roads uninsured. I mean, me personally, I thought, well, it is illegal to be driving without insurance anyway. I was like, years ago, being sort of naive, and like, I thought everyone just had insurance. It was almost like a car came with insurance. Then I had to buy my own. That's when the naivety went out the window. I had to buy my own insurance, and I was like, oh, okay, there we go, back to reality. And so it's all good now, I know. But we all know that automobile insurance, it's designed to protect you and your vehicle if you're involved in an accident, or if the car is vandalized or damaged in a natural disaster. Your personal liability coverage protects you if you're deemed as at fault in an accident that injures someone else, like we was talking, or damages their property. So that's pretty much what auto insurances do, is to protect not only you, your car, as well as take care of the other person. If you're in an accident, multiple car accident, and if you are at fault, is to take care of the other person and keep you from being personally liable for the accident. In most states, I think not, except for New Hampshire, there are minimums that you have to have on your vehicles. And that's just minimum as an everyday driver, not counting if you are a professional and your vehicle is very important, which, if you have, unless you like work from home and you don't do anything that would need your automobile, your car, for business purposes, which is really hard to believe in today's time, because anything that you're doing as far as auto accidents, as far as business goes, you're going to use your car for business. And let me look here. We actually have, just making sure. I thought I saw a question here, but it was actually a statement. I'll get to that in a second. But it's kind of hard, as I was saying, it's kind of difficult to believe that every person, if they have a business, in one way or another, they're going to use it while conducting business. If you're carrying, your, say for instance, you have a ton of packages, you have a eBay business, and you sell books. Let's just keep it at that, books or products, and you have to take them to either, UPS, FedEx, post office. You put those packages in the car or your vehicle, you're on your way, you're conducting business. It doesn't seem like it. You may do other things while you are taking your packages to the post office, to UPS or whatever, but you've still conducted business. That's the reason why I say it's kind of difficult. And most people are, that's one of the biggest problems, of people being underinsured. And I got a little bit ahead of myself because I kind of got on that point, because that's what a conversation was really about. Someone was talking about it, and uh, I was like, yeah, it's kind of hard to believe everyone conducts some type of business with their automobile, which doesn't seem like a problem until an accident happens. And that's basically what all insurance is for the what ifs. As long as the what ifs doesn't happen, the insurance is basically in the background, but it is protection. It is one of the most important, in other areas, life, health, whatever, is very important. So even with your car, most people, most people are driving nice automobiles, and they're not properly insured. They don't have enough insurance. And, I just want to stress the importance of having that, because number one, with insurance, um, you need the personal liability insurance, and that's the biggie. That's usually the big one. It covers bodily injuries, property damage, like I said, personal injury protection in certain states. um, if you have it, collision coverage, I'll go into that, comprehensive coverage, uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage, which is usually translates into kids, those first time drivers, because when they first get licensed and everything, they may not be able enough to buy their own insurance, which means they're going to be on yours. And we've been marking the calendar when Bella can buy her own insurance, because that one usually equals a lot of money. But let's get into it. The first two items on the list, the injury and property damage, that's the policy's liability coverage, which means bodily injury coverage is injury to another person if you are at fault in an accident. So for example, you're driving down the road, and maybe you're texting, you're eating, or maybe you're putting on makeup or doing whatever, and you rear end someone at the light with your car. And you know what most people do when they're rear-ended? Oh, there we go. You hear the cat. You hear the dollars flowing already, right? Um, they have the neck and back injury. They're gonna go to the hospital for the X-rays or any ongoing treatment, because now they've gone into milk mode. They're gonna milk it. Uh, the bodily injury liability coverage could pay for some, all of those costs, depending on your coverage limits, depending on the limits. And just keep that in mind. Now, that's the bodily injury. Property damage liability coverage, it covers damage to the other person's property if you are at fault. So we have two coverages. One is for the bodily, the actual person. The other one is for their property, their car, auto, whatever they're in. And this coverage, it can extend to another person's vehicle as well as other property. Because sometimes if an accident happens, most of the time, most people think of just accidents being clean on the road. You're driving, you're in the car, and they hit a fence, someone's property. That's also included in the property damage liability coverage. So we have to take all of that into all of this stuff that's on the road. Anything else is damaged, not counting maybe you hit them and then they rear end, you cause a chain reaction. Oh my goodness. So we really don't want to think about that, but it happens. We see it all the time now. We're seeing it a lot especially with all of these storms and everything, these hurricanes, these tornadoes, these big snowstorms sometimes that are happening, these chain reaction accidents. The person that caused it, wow, that's serious. But just keeping it simple, every day you're driving, you rear someone, hit someone, maybe, and it causes them to veer off the road and damage other property. And if you are found, at fault, your insurance has to cover all of that, possibly if you have enough. So we have to just remember that. Now, it doesn't pay, the liability insurance, it doesn't pay, this quick side note, it doesn't pay for medical expenses or repairs to your vehicle if you're involved in an accident. I'm going to cover that because those are covered by other parts of the auto policy. Because most people will ask that question right off, quickly ask that question. Well, what about my property? That's a totally different thing. Most states outside of New Hampshire, as I said earlier, they have set a minimum threshold on the amount of personal liability insurance drivers need to have. And depending on your state's requirements, you may see roughly 3 different liability limits included. And that's the bodily injury per person, limit per person, bodily injury liability per accident, and property damage liability limit. So it also you have to know if your policy even covers how many accidents. We all heard about those people that having accidents and then they say, hey, my insurance been canceled. You're too much of a liability. You've hit the limit. They've canceled the insurance. That's basically what it's saying. You're too much of a risk. We've paid out more than we should have with you, and so you cancel it. Most times, most states, it's around 25,000 for bodily injury liability per person. That's and it's limited to the maximum which the insurance company will pay towards someone else's medical expenses if you're involved in an accident, in an example, or at fault. I'm sorry. And for example, you may be covered up to 25,000. It could be more. It could be more, a lot more. I have a lot more than that, per person. Bodily injury limited per accident. A lot of times you will see at the minimum 50,000 at the minimum of the bodily injury per accident. Then the liability for the actual property is usually minimum 100,000. And in today's times, that's not a lot. We all know that is not a lot, especially with all of these attorneys out here that says, that injury that you have, you could get $100,000 off of it. So we're going to sue, get the money. And then we're going to sue for another 100,000 for your car, for your auto or whatever. Well, however much your auto was, but you're driving, this, that Mercedes, that S-Class Mercedes, that's $200,000 car. And so that has to be taken care of, so we're going to go and, they pump everything up. And then if they happen to see some other damage, then they approach the other property owners and talk to them. And before you know it, you have $100,000 and you're being sued for 1.5 million. And you're going to be liable for anything over 100,000 if awarded. So we have to remember that. I mentioned collision earlier. Collision is specifically for you if your car is financed. You want to have, even if it's not financed, you can have collision insurance whether your car is financed or not. Most finance companies, whoever finances your car, requires you to have collision because they want to know if you get in an accident, you have insurance in place to take care of it. Once the car is free and clear, you own it free and clear. It's your decision whether or not you're going to carry collision. If you're driving a big, nice luxury car And say, for instance, the least amount of damage can cost $5,000. You need to keep in mind, would I want to pay that out of pocket, or would I want to use insurance? Then there's also other policy just in case something has happened. There's a different part of the insurance policy. For instance, you're driving down the road and someone, these kids and crazies out there, they're throwing things off of bridges, and it hits your car and damages your car. Maybe cause a wreck. Who knows what it will cause? But if it didn't cause a wreck, let's just keep it straightforward. Your car is damaged. That's another part of the policy. And it may be time for you to have that umbrella policy, which that's what increases your liability over $1 million. I always carry that, at least that much in business, because being in real estate, putting people in the car, it was a requirement, at least $1 million. And I was blessed to never be in that type of a situation where, I was with, had someone in the car, or, was conducting business or whatever, and an accident happened. But I saw it a lot. And as friendly as these people were, they were friendly. They were like families with the agents, and the agents buying them dinner, buying them breakfast, doing all of this, whining and dining. Have an accident, they're no longer friends. They're like enemies now. And because the attorneys know, okay, they're in real estate, they should have at least $1 million, in the policy covering their auto and everything, and everyone that's going inside of the car. And so I've seen some ugly situations, really, and it happens quick. And that's what really triggered the thought of one of my early shows years ago, and me having the attorney on. They were talking about that, because they was like, these people knew each other, and when that accident happened, first thing they said, well, you have insurance, on the truck, we'll take it, your insurance can take care of it. And then the person was sort of, like, yeah, that's fine, we'll do that, until they came back and said how much they wanted. And that's when it got ugly. So I sort of cover the quick ins and outs of it, the amounts, but specifically the importance is remembering those minimum amounts, which is 25,000 bodily injury liability per person, $50,000 bodily liability limit per accident, 25,000 property damage liability limit. And as you can see, those numbers are extremely low. 25,000 on property damage, 25,000 is easy. I've seen maybe 3 wrecks in the last week where 25,000 wouldn't even start the process of bringing a contractor out to even, start on a project, because two of them was actually cars veering off the road, hitting houses. There you go. You hit a structure. That's a lot. So that's what I wanted to touch on today. It's a lot more into it, but hopefully I just gave you enough information for you to go back and look at your auto policies. And especially if you're in business, you're conducting business, because most people, they don't think about it. They have a side hustle. With today, about everyone has a side hustle. And if you're using your vehicle for that side hustle, look into some extra insurance for your automobile. Because excuse me, you're driving, basic American car. As an individual, you have an accident, people just gonna say, well, they it's individual, we're gonna look at the policy, this, that, and the other, see what we can get. They find out you are a business person, whether you're making a profit or not. You may not even be making any money yet. That's not the important thing. Important thing, you are a business person. The attorneys are now saying this is a business person, probably has a lot of assets and all of this, because that's just the perception. That's just the perception out here. It's just when people hear this is a business person, they automatically think the person has a lot. And the attorneys are going to help this person go after it if possible. And if it's not there and they sue, you don't have the money, now you have to start selling things. You're liable for all of this. And so that's where a lot of bankruptcies start to happen and things like that, or the sale of a lot of property and assets and all of this good stuff starts to happen. And so we have to make sure that we have the right amount of insurance coverage for these situations. So there you go. But before I go, I actually have a comment here. Let's see here. Well, I have a couple of comments. Number one, I have Travon McEntyre. Okay, Travon, keep feeding the people real life, usable knowledge and skills. That's what I want to do. That's what it's all about. Because especially when it comes to money, money is serious. Out here, like I say, I've seen some great friends become enemies, over some money. I've seen people, some of the best people in the world, nicest people I've ever met. Something happens, accident or whatever, and now it brings out the worst in people. And so that's why this is so important to have this knowledge to 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 really cover yourself, not only to cover other people, but like I say, insurance is also to cover you. I've seen some financial lives ruined because of not being properly insured. Most of the time you think of it as life insurance or health insurance, but property insurance, car insurance, a wreck, and they're ruined. So yeah, that's definitely what I want to do there for you, Travon. Here I have Teresa Mosley. You pay car insurance for years and have an accident and they want to take you through hoops for your claim. I mean, exactly right. That's the reality of it. I mean, you're spot on. I mean, it would be nice if everyone was cordial and they really looked out for each other and, hey, we'll settle this thing and all this. Accident happened, you damaged my car. I mean, I can't say that I wouldn't be the same way. I'm out minding my business, maybe on my way to get some ice cream or some pizza or some donuts, something like that. You hit me because you're in a rush, you're in a hurry, and it's your fault. You're gonna pay. Um, and if possible, you're probably gonna buy me a better car than what I was driving, because I I know some good actors and they've taught me how to act more hurt than what I am. So I'm going to leave that alone. But, and Teresa said, right. What I just said, right. It's the truth. It's the truth. So I'm going to end it there. If there are no more comments, I want to thank everyone for the interactions there. But I'm going to shut it down here, and hopefully you will get that insurance policy, auto insurance. It may be time to look at all of them. All you have to do, call your insurance agent. They call them P&C, property and casualty agents. Whoever insures your house and home, call them and say, hey, I need to do a review. I need to do a review of that. Talk to your agent about that. That's what they're there for. They want to do that. They want to make sure that you're properly covered and everything. We want to make sure that you also covered financially if something did happen. Have your finances in order. Give us a call. Maybe time to set up that meeting. You don't know exactly what to do. Give us a call. Contact us here. We'll point you in the right direction and make sure everything is on target for you financially. So, with that being said, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Tune in next time. I will be back. If you're watching by Facebook, or if you're watching Facebook Live, watching by YouTube, don't forget to share it. Don't forget to like it. Subscribe so you'll know when I'm about to go on air. And till then, until next time, we'll talk.